Are these real?
The best quality.
You mean they're fake?
Only a few dollars.
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 It's not only a few dollars. Counterfeit goods take away jobs, and many are tied to violence and crimes, including child labor, drugs, and gangs. You have the power to stop it. Know the real cost. Don't buy counterfeits.
Dealing in counterfeit products are mean bad guys, and it doesn't matter to them what the product is.
Imagine if there's a house fire and a child dies in that house fire. To me, as an officer, as a street officer, that's when I can do the most good, is to maybe prevent something like that.
It's phenomenal how much is out there. There's a lot of losses here that, because of IPR crimes, that frontline officers can prevent.
Law enforcement should care. It's very dangerous.
Hello there. Welcome once again to Crime Prevention Works. I'm Tessie Ajala. On Crime Prevention Works, we believe that crime prevention is a collective act of responsibility, everyone's business. It takes a village, people. It takes you and I to keep us safe. It takes collaboration with law enforcement agencies to keep America safe. I have been producing Crime Prevention Works on public access television since 2004, and we've designed this show to utilize television to showcase community crime prevention professionals, law enforcement agencies, all in an attempt to create more awareness, prevent crime, and to keep our communities even safer than before. We preach prevention on this show, ladies and gentlemen, and not reaction. I'm sure you agree with me that an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. We're talking about counterfeits and anti-counterfeiting on this show today. And why is this important? This is important because of numbers like this. $1.22 billion. According to the Department of Homeland Security, in 2014 alone, $1.22 billion is the approximate total value of seizures of fake goods protected by intellectual property laws. This is enormous, people. This is an enormous problem, and we must create more awareness to prevent counterfeits. And so, why do consumers knowingly buy fake products? Based on a survey conducted by Canon, the camera manufacturing company, 45% of respondents think it's just as good as the real thing, and 50% thinks it's cheaper. Well, our special guest will enlighten us more on this subject. She's Harkins, the president and CEO of the National Crime Prevention Council, home of McGruff the Crime Dog. She's a lawyer. She was once late Attorney General John Areno's chief of staff at the Justice Department, and she was also chief counsel of the Senate Judiciary Committee on Technology and the Law. Welcome to the show, Anne.
Thank you, Tessie. It's great to be here.
Thanks so much for finding time out of your busy schedule to join us on Crime Prevention Works.
Well, crime prevention does work, so I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Please tell us, for the sake of our viewers who are not totally familiar with the work of the National Crime Prevention Council, but may know McGruff, could you tell us a little bit about the council?
The National Crime Prevention Council was created by the Justice Department, the Advertising Council, and some private philanthropists in New York, because at the time, in the late 1970s, this is hard to believe today, when we know that 75% of Americans know there are things they can do to keep themselves safe, the kind of things you showcase on your show. But at that time, if you said to people, what can you do to keep your community safe, to keep your family safe? The response was, I can't do anything. That's law enforcement's job. And so the National Crime Prevention Council, or NCPC, was created to help people understand there are things they can do and encourage them to engage in their communities to help prevent crime and keep their communities safer.
That's awesome. So are you getting as much response from the general public to help, to do crime prevention work in grassroots communities as much as you'd expect to get?
Every day we get a phone call from a police officer or a mom, somebody who's working in a school, someone who's working in a community center, asking, do you have materials that address this? Or just members of the general public. They think they saw something that needs attention, or they feel like they've been scammed, and they will call us and ask for help.
That's awesome. And a very important question I also mean to ask you. In this day and age of terrorism, you know, I know that the Homeland Security Department is doing a lot, but NCPC has been there for many, many years. And do you think the government will prioritize the work of trying to prevent terrorism through the National Crime Prevention Council as well?
Well, we stand ready to help. We have worked with Citizen Corps. We have worked with the National Cybersecurity Alliance to help make people aware of problems. We have publications and toolkits. I think if you look at it, that crime prevention means involving the community in preventing crime, in taking steps to know one another, to get involved in their community. All of those same techniques, whether you're talking about prevention of a terrorist attack, a response to a flood or a hurricane, those techniques of knowing your community, being involved in your community, and speaking up to law enforcement or the appropriate authorities when you see something that just doesn't look right, all of those are basic crime prevention principles, and of course they can help in the Homeland Security arena.
Yes, yes indeed. I'd like to talk a little bit about McGruff the Crime Dog. What's the state of affairs with McGruff these days?
Well, McGruff is alive and well. 83% of Americans recognize him. 90% of adults think he's trustworthy and informative, and I think it's 72% think he's cool. We think he's pretty cool too.
Oh yes, indeed. I think McGruff is cool. Are we going to be able to get McGruff to come with you back on this show sometime soon?
We'll see what we can do.
Okay, we'll talk about counterfeiting. I know that this is one of the things that you're working on right now at the council, but before we talk about that, could you enlighten us a little bit more from the perspective of the law, copyrights, patent, trade secrets, and trademarks?
Sure. All of these intellectual property protections are designed to make sure the inventor or the author is able to recover the investment that he or she has made in the product. So copyrights protect software. If I am not a painter, but if I were talented enough to do a painting, a graphic design, all of copyrights protect music. If I were to write a song, if I were to design software, all of those things are protected by copyrights. A patent protects a useful object, a pencil, a computer, pharmaceuticals. All of those things are protected by patents, and they give the inventor a limited period of time in which they have the exclusive rights to sell that particular product. A trademark, McGruff the Crime Dog, is an example of a famous trademark. But a trademark protects the brand of a particular company, but in doing so, it protects the research and development money that the company put into developing that particular product. It protects the work that they spend, the time that they spend. So for example, Canon wants to make sure that if you purchase a camera or an accessory, that you're not going to get hurt. They spend a lot of money, not just on the research and development to create the product, but also in saying to you, you can trust the Canon brand. So that's what trademarks do. And then trade secrets, there are many different kinds of trade secrets, but trade secrets protect things like the formula for food, or baby formula, or a cola. So they're all different forms of intellectual property, which is designed to protect, in the case of copyright, the expression of an idea, the invention of a useful product, or the brand and the work that has gone into creating a formula for a product.
So there's all of these protections out there for inventors and for designers and so on and so forth. But there's this terrible issue of counterfeiting and counterfeits. And this has been a big problem. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that and talk about NCPC's anti-counterfeiting initiative?
So we started working several years ago now. The Justice Department asked us to look at some emerging crime trends. And those crime trends involved everything from intellectual property theft to bullying and cyberbullying, mortgage fraud. There were a series of crimes that the department wanted to make the public more aware. And the first one we worked on was intellectual property. People certainly know that there are problems with counterfeits, but they don't recognize the breadth of the problem. The most important piece, I think, is the health and safety. It's absolutely true, and you alluded to this, that when people see a counterfeit product, they're looking at, gee, I can get the real thing for $50, and I can buy a fake on the street for maybe 10 or less. Well, what are the things you need to know about that? The product that you purchase on the counterfeit product, if you're talking about counterfeit pharmaceuticals, for example, the pill that you very much need to take to cure an illness or help with a sore throat, the counterfeit product may be made with wax, sawdust.
Oh my goodness.
There's counterfeit toothpaste. We're talking about things that we would ingest. Counterfeit perfume, for example, may be laced with urine. So the first and foremost, that people have been, during the research phase of our campaign, people purchased counterfeit AIDS drugs. Now imagine if you're an AIDS patient and you're relying on a steady stream of certain pharmaceuticals into your system to protect you, and it was made with junk.
Yeah.
So there are many different health and safety factors. I'm going to just hold this up, but see the "Don't Get Burned" ad. This was inspired by a very real situation in which a family used a counterfeit extension cord on their holiday lights and their house burned down.
Oh my goodness.
There are counterfeit contact lenses. Anything you can think of, from a camera lens to a contact lens, can be counterfeited. But imagine putting something in your eye. There are circumstances where the Department of Homeland Security has prosecuted cases where people's retinas were damaged.
Wow.
Or one woman even lost her sight in one eye as a result of Now, this is a simple one to prevent because contact lenses require prescriptions in this country.
Yeah.
So if a consumer is going online buying cheap contact lenses without a prescription, that's a huge red flag.
Well, it's terrible. I didn't know that it's that bad.
It's that bad,
so
and any product you can think of can be counterfeited. Cell phones, camera parts and accessories, and we'll fast forward. We have a partnership right now with Canon because they want to make people aware that camera parts and accessories, so external flashes, batteries, battery chargers, if you get a counterfeit, it doesn't have all the protections inside it. The same with counterfeit holiday lights. If you have a little bit of copper and a lot of plastic, you could have a fire on your hands. They can smoke. When we talk about the camera parts, they can smoke, they can burn, they can damage, they could hurt you, the photographer, and you're not going to get the photograph that you've worked so hard to take.
Oh my goodness, it's terrible. It sounds to me like we need to have counterfeit in place. We need to have like a bigger force of action against counterfeiting.
Well, we have a number of great civil servants who are working. The Department of Homeland Security, ICE, coordinates a center called the IPR Center, the National Intellectual Property Rights Coordination Center. It's in Crystal City, and all of the agencies, it's 23 agencies in the federal government who address intellectual property crime, U.S. Postal Inspection Service, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security investigations, Customs and Border Protection, the Department of State, a whole range of agencies. They are co-located so that they can work together and support the investigators in the field who are investigating or prosecuting these cases.
Wow, you have a lot of useful prevention information here. And I see that you have one of the NCPC's month kit here. How do people from home get a copy of this?
They call or send a note to our website at ncpc.org. And we can make these available. They're printed to be made available to crime prevention practitioners around the country, and who in turn share them with their community. And they're great. They have, each month has a particular.
Yes. That's
so
very
this
nice.
is December, and here we are. So it's tips to avoid getting counterfeit products when you're doing your holiday shopping.
Yeah, I was talking about that. You have 10 top 10 tips. Do you want to go through those? I think they're very important.
I'd be happy to go through the top 10 tips. And the nice thing about all of our materials, oh, you won't be able to see it, all of our materials are designed so that local law enforcement can add their own logo
to
and
it.
make it available to people in community meetings. So top 10 tips for protecting yourself from fakes. Most importantly, and this is true about crime prevention, no matter what crime you're talking about, trust your instincts. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yes.
Insist on secure transactions. So when you're purchasing something online, make sure that you're working with a website that has an HTTPS, because the S stands for security.
The S is important. As you can see on your screens, ladies and gentlemen, you need to have that S for security over there.
Seek quality assurance in the secondary market. Reputable resellers have comprehensive inspection and authentication information. If you're buying online, try and buy from a store or provider that also has a bricks and mortar store, because that is a sign that this is a solid company. Be particularly careful about purchasing medicines online. I talked about some of the dangers of that. Be vigilant when buying abroad, and similarly, be careful about foreign sites. Do your homework. If you're purchasing a product online, make sure that you know what it should cost, what the ingredients should be. If you're purchasing a camera, for example, test the battery. See, does it fit easily? That's another, if something doesn't quite fit, that might be a sign that it's a counterfeit. Scrutinize labels, packaging, and contents. So if it has an expiration date and it's long past, don't buy it.
Yeah.
If the grammar is funny or the packaging looks funny, if words are missing, all of those are signs that it might not be the genuine product. And then check with the manufacturer. Buy from a reputable dealer, an authorized dealer, or the manufacturer itself. And if you have doubts, call the manufacturer. I'm sitting in a flea market and they're saying that they have your products for sale at this price. What do you think? Well, the odds are, if the price is too good to be true, it's not something you should buy.
Yeah.
Do report fake products. We have lots of materials on our website about where you can report for particular things, but the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the IPR Center are all available for intake. And then spread the word about dangerous or fake products. Talk to folks in your community, talk to your children, let people know, particularly the health and safety concerns.
Thank you so very much. Those are very, very important tips. What are the roles of gangs? You want to talk a little bit more about gangs and how they're involved in all of these? We cover gang activities a lot on this show, but relating gang activities to counterfeits is something I never thought of very much until I read some of your material here.
It's really important to think about this. So many people, when we did our research at the beginning of the campaign, people know that buying counterfeits is wrong. They think it's like shoplifting or robbery. So they know it's wrong, but the lure of the bargain overcomes the moral compass far too much. So one of the things that our campaign was designed to do, and I would encourage people to look at the ad called Premonition, because it really brings this home. If people know that the purchase, let's say a counterfeit CD or a counterfeit camera charger, if they know that that's supporting international organized crime, or it's supporting gang activity, or the selling of CDs on the street is enabling the gang to engage in its drug dealing and human trafficking, and in other cases it's child labor, that you're supporting other crimes, that gets people's attention and they're less likely to buy the product. So we know that gangs are involved in selling CDs. It's relatively easy to do. It's cheaper. It funds their other products. And frankly, they're less likely to get caught. One of the things we learned in working with law enforcement in developing and distributing our campaign is that counterfeiting, and you can counterfeit everything: cameras, cell phones, contact lenses, pharmaceuticals, can all be counterfeited. These guys don't care. They're counterfeiting cell phones today, CDs next week, computer parts the week after. They just don't care. So it's any product that can help them make money. But drug dealers and gangs, this is essentially a retirement program for them.
Wow.
And that is really scary.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So if I notice gang activities about counterfeiting and so on and so forth, all of this information, we can get more information on how to report from local communities from your website?
Absolutely, at ncpc.org.
At ncpc.org. So I want to talk a little bit more about McGruff before we go. I love McGruff. So I want community members out there that might still want to see McGruff in their communities to do some work, or in their companies, or in schools, and so on and so forth. Could you please help us to know how what we need to do to get McGruff to our local communities?
There are law enforcement officers and crime prevention practitioners around the country who have a McGruff costume. And if you contact us at the National Crime Prevention Council, we can put you in touch with, we're in Fairfax County, I happen to know they have more than one costume, and we can put you in touch with the folks in the police department who would help you get a McGruff visit to your school or community center.
Awesome. So viewers out there, if you'd like to get McGruff in your communities again, you can please go to NCPC's website. You can see the web address on your screens right now, and you get more information on how to get McGruff to your communities. I want to talk a little bit more about NCPC resources. We have a whole lot of resources. Over the years, there have been crime prevention strategies and so many varieties of things. And which of these resources, apart from counterfeiting, which is probably hot for you right now, which are some of the other crime prevention initiatives that you think are very important to get out there to
We have, well, two campaigns right now. We have our work on intellectual property protection, counterfeits, and illegally downloaded or pirated software, which we worked with on the Justice Department, and now the most recent iteration is the work we're doing with Canon to celebrate Crime Prevention Month in October and throughout the year to make people aware of the dangers of counterfeit camera parts and accessories. But we also have a campaign. NCPC does have a breadth of work, and we currently have a campaign on safe firearms storage, so encouraging people, if a gun is not in use, to lock it up. And we have materials on our website. The most frequent requests we get from our website for information is about personal and home security, and also bullying and cyberbullying. We have a lot of really good material on our website for parents, for kids, for teachers, about school safety and about bullying and cyberbullying.
That's awesome. That's very good information. I'm sure a lot of parents out there would like to get more information about bullying and cyberbullying for the kids. So please take a look at the NCPC's website. Gun safety
Yes.
That's a very important one. We've talked about that a lot in this show. And I wanted to, I was wondering if you can shed some more light on that, or maybe in the future, you can, we can get somebody to come. Maybe you want to come back and talk about that and show us different ways that we can lock up the guns and so on and so forth.
Well, there are also great information on our website. For example, what we call a snap guide, which is sort of an online toolkit to show you what kinds of safety measures are available for purchase, like cable locks, trigger locks, things like that. But the most important thing is to think about how you would feel if a firearm that you owned got into the wrong hands and resulted in injury or death to another human being, and to think about what is the appropriate storage solution for your family.
Awesome, very nice. Scams. You talked about ways to avoid getting scammed. Could you please review a little bit some of those things we need to bear in mind to avoid being scammed?
Well, the most important thing is to know who you're dealing with. And if your instincts are telling you, if your gut says this is too good to be true, walk away. That's the most important, that's the easiest way to avoid being scammed.
To avoid being scammed.
Know who you're dealing with, make sure it's a reputable company, whether you're purchasing camera parts and accessories, contact lenses, or an IT provider, a computer for your home. Make sure you know who you're dealing with and check it out. Do your homework before you buy.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming onto the show. I'd really appreciate finding time out of your busy schedule to come. Would you like to come back? I'd love to have you come back.
Thank you, Tessie, that's great.
Well, viewers, thank you so much for watching. As a strategic way of creating more awareness, we invite you to join us next time. We would like to continue to talk and engage ourselves, create more awareness, and to protect our communities from crimes before they occur. Thank you for watching, and have a good evening.